I've met people who had everything, talent, education, opportunity, yet they never built the life they dreamed of. And I've met others who started with nothing but belief, and they moved mountains. Confidence isn't what you get after you win. Confidence is what you need before you even begin. It's the quiet fire that says, I may be afraid, but I'll move anyway. See, fear and doubt are not the enemies. They're the signal that you're standing on the edge of growth. The question is, will you step forward or step back into comfort? If this kind of conversation stirs something in you, make sure you subscribe. Because today, we're going to build a kind of confidence that doesn't shake when life does. So let me ask you something. When fear knocks on your door, who answers? Your courage or your excuses? I've spent many years watching fear and doubt turn grown adults into disciplined procrastinators. They read the right books, listen to the right podcasts, attend the right seminars, and wait for confidence to arrive, as if it were coming in the mail with instructions. But confidence doesn't come in a box. It's born inside the moment you take a step despite your trembling hands. I used to wait too, and while I waited, my opportunities passed me by. The real turning point in my life came when I accepted a simple, uncomfortable truth. Confidence isn't an emotion you feel before you start. It's the dividend you earn after you keep a promise to yourself. It doesn't fall from the sky. It accrues in the account of discipline. Most people do the opposite. They look for external proof before taking action. One more piece of advice, one more guarantee, one more success story to minimize the risk of failure. They weigh, compare, look at their neighbor, and decide they'll start when they feel ready. But those who truly change their lives start when they've made the decision. Not when fear disappears, not when someone gives permission, when the decision appears. They know emotions follow action, like a shadow follows a person walking toward the light. And every small action taken creates a small piece of evidence. Small pieces of evidence line up and turn into unshakable confidence. I call this the system of internal capital. Each of us has an account of self-respect, and every day it receives deposits and withdrawals. You promise yourself to get up at 6, and you do, plus. You promise to call a client, and you do, plus. You promise to save 10%, and you do, plus. Every plus adds weight to your word. And then one morning you notice, when you say, I'll do it, there's silence inside, no inner argument. Because your internal accountant knows this client pays their bills on time. That's what unshakable confidence really is. Quiet respect for your own word, multiplied by a history of kept promises. There's another thing I've learned the hard way. People mistake confidence for the absence of doubt. That's like confusing the ocean with calm weather. The wind will blow, doubts will come. The real question is, who's steering the sail when the waves rise? Those who seek absolute certainty become prisoners of planning. They draw and redraw maps until the port they intended to leave loses its meaning. But the builders of life sail by a different rule. If you can't change the wind, adjust the sail. They don't argue with the weather. They adjust the course. They don't spend years waiting for the right mood. They lift the anchor when it's time. So, what do most people really lack? Not knowledge. Knowledge is cheap today. What's missing is a philosophy that turns knowledge into decisions, and decisions into consistency. My philosophy is simple. First, complete responsibility. As long as the cause of your results lives somewhere out there, in the market, the boss, the government, your power lives there too. Bring the cause back inside, and your power comes home. Second, deadlines. A dream without a date is fog. Set a by when, and the fog becomes a road. Third, daily evidence. Not heroic bursts, not marathons of inspiration, but short, predictable, measurable actions that close the loop of said, done. Fourth, environment. Confidence is as contagious as fear. When you're around people who take action, you suddenly start believing the voice that's long been whispering, you can. It's important to understand the mechanics here. Fear and doubt feed on pauses. The longer the pause between intention and action, the louder the doubt becomes. Have you noticed how easy it is to delay a call if you don't make it in the first 5 minutes, and how hard it is after a day? The same law applies to everything. That's why the system of unshakable confidence doesn't start with big victories, but with shortening the distance between intention and movement. Say it. Do it today. Promise it. Fulfill it by evening. Plan it. Begin with the very first inch. And when your brain asks, "What if it doesn't work?" the answer is simple. We're already doing it. Thoughts love to argue with the future, but they fall silent before the fact. At work, this is especially clear. Two people have the same experience, same position, same pay. The first builds confidence on external signals, praise, hints, approval. The second, on internal standards. I show up earlier, prepare deeper, finish cleaner. After 6 months, they're no longer the same. After 3 years, one is asking for a promotion. The other is being asked to lead. The difference isn't in title. It's in the capital of self-respect, which quietly but inevitably converts into influence and income. Why do I call it a system, not a mood? Because a mood, at best, adds fuel, but a system guarantees direction. The system has 3 circles. The first, philosophy, what I believe about myself and the world. The second, language, how I talk to myself every day, and whether my words sign checks for defeat. The third, daily agreements, specific, measurable, short-term actions today that close the gap between intention and result. When these 3 circles align, fear stops being the master and becomes just the weather outside, noticeable but not decisive. Let me put the contrast bluntly, the way I once learned it. Most people live by the logic of postponed courage. When I feel confident, then I'll start. The people who change their lives live by the logic of advance payment. I'll start, and that will create confidence. Most collect guarantees. Builders create evidence. Most shrink their goals so they won't feel afraid. Builders strengthen their discipline so they won't retreat. Most look for what's easy. Builders look for what's clear. Easy is about comfort now. Clear is about a worthy result later. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Test it yourself by tonight. Take one small promise that matters to your career and keep it before your mood even appears. Feel how quietly but noticeably your posture shifts, how your voice gains respect when you say, "I'll do it next time." This is how great confidence is built. It's not fireworks. It's not a bayonet. It's stone by stone, day by day, promise by promise. And one day you wake up and realize fear exists, doubt breathes beside you, but they no longer control your calendar or your choices. You do. And here's the main question that decides everything. Are you ready to stop waiting for a feeling and start building evidence today so that tomorrow you can rely not on hope, but on your own unshakable history of kept promises? Let me tell you a story. It was the year I turned 25. On paper, everything looked bad. I was in debt, I had a few coins in my pockets, and my mind was a complete mess. But the scariest part wasn't in the numbers. The scariest part was inside me. I woke up every morning and the first thing I heard was the voice of doubt. What if you're just not made for this? What if life just isn't for you? And I listened to it. I listened for months. Doubt is a very polite guest. It doesn't shout. It whispers until you agree. One day, my neighbor, Mr. Earl Shoaff, invited me to a meeting. I remember hesitating. I had no money, no motivation, not even a clean shirt without a stain, but I went. That evening changed my life. Earl stood in front of a small audience and spoke so calmly, as if he were talking to each of us personally. He said a phrase I still remember, word for word. If you want everything to change for you, you have to change. A simple sentence, but it cut through my excuses like a knife, because I realized that all this time I had been waiting for the world to prove to me that I could, and the world had been waiting for me to prove it to myself. After the meeting, I approached him. I said, "Mr. Shoaff, I'm not sure I can do all this." "I'm scared," he looked at me and said, "Fear is proof that you're standing on the edge of growth. If you don't feel it, it means you're standing still." And then he added, "Start small, Jim. Do something you're afraid to do, and do it quickly before your mind has a chance to interfere." The next morning, I took my first step. I bought a book I'd been putting off reading because I thought it was for smart people. Then I started getting up earlier. Then I started reading every day. Then I began saving part of every dollar, even when there were only a few dollars. And with each day, I noticed that my fear didn't disappear. It just moved to the background, because something stronger appeared: respect for my own word. A year later, I met Earl again. He smiled and said, "You're a different man now." And I realized he was right. Not because I had money or titles, but because I no longer lived under the rule of doubt. I acted, even when I didn't know how things would turn out. And each small result added another brick to the wall of confidence that no failure could shake. Later, when I began speaking to audiences, I saw the same story reflected in other people's eyes. One man came up to me after a seminar and said, "Mr. Rohn, I have a big dream, but I'm not sure I'm ready to chase it." I asked him, "What's holding you back?" He replied, "I'm afraid I won't make it." I looked at him and said, "Then make it through one day. Just today. Tomorrow. Do it again." A year later, he sent me a letter. He wrote, "You were right. The fear didn't disappear, but now it walks behind me, not ahead of me." You see, fear doesn't disappear when we become confident. It just stops managing our schedule. I often say confidence doesn't mean you don't tremble. It means you keep moving, even while you tremble. It's the habit of acting faster than doubt can speak. And you know what's interesting? The more I acted, the less I thought about fear. When you're working, you're not analyzing, you're moving. And at some point, you begin to see that every fear was just a shadow cast by your own step forward. Sometimes I wonder how my life would have turned out if I hadn't gone to that meeting. If I had stayed home, listening to the doubt telling me, "It's not time yet." I'd probably still be sitting on that same old couch, looking out the window, telling myself, "Maybe someday." But someday is the graveyard of all unlived lives. And now when I look at my students, I see the same point of choice. It always looks the same. A small situation, a little moment, raising your hand at a meeting, speaking up, making a call, stepping onto the stage, sharing an idea, and then the wave of fear. And that's exactly where confidence is born, not when everything is calm, but when you tell yourself, "I'll do it anyway." And you do. Sometimes I think God invented fear, not to make us stop, but to help us discover how much faith we have. Fear isn't an enemy, it's an invitation. An invitation to trust your own word. And that's when action becomes the response to fear, not an escape from it. That's when life starts working for you. You enter the flow. You stop waiting. You start creating. You stop asking, "Can I?" and start saying, "I've begun." And now I want to ask you, when was the last time you did something that scared you, but you did it anyway? And what changed after that? You've probably noticed how easy it is to believe in your fear, and how hard it is to believe in your own strength. Fear sounds convincing. It has arguments. It says, "Be careful. It's not the right time. What will people think?" And if you listen to it long enough, it starts to sound like reason. But fear never talks about the future. It only repeats the past. It takes your old failures, pulls them out of memory, and presents them to you as evidence. That's why confidence isn't faith that everything will be easy. It's faith that even if it's hard, you won't break. When I began studying success, I noticed a pattern. The most confident people rarely looked fearless. They had simply learned to see fear differently. For them, fear wasn't a wall, it was a mirror. Every time they felt doubt, they asked themselves, "What exactly am I afraid to lose? Comfort, reputation, the illusion of control, and when they answered honestly, fear lost its shape, because fear lives in fog. Once you shine the light of clarity on it, it melts away. People often say, "I want confidence before I start." But confidence isn't handed out at the starting line. It's the result of dozens of moments when you did something despite fear and proved to yourself that you can trust your own word. You build it not with words, but with actions. Every time you promise yourself something and follow through, a brick. Every time you promise and don't deliver, a crack. And one day you're either building a fortress of confidence or watching it crumble under the weight of your own unkept promises. I like to think of confidence as a muscle. If you stop training it, it weakens. If you give it consistent load, it grows. And just like in sports, you don't lift something heavy on the first day. You lift what your current can allow, and that's enough. Confidence doesn't grow from big breakthroughs, but from steady presence. Every day you show up, you deposit a coin into the treasury of confidence. And one morning, when a new challenge comes, you open that account and see the resource is already there. There's one more thing worth realizing. Fear and doubt don't disappear. They just change their language. At first, they say, "You can't." Later, "Maybe it's not worth the risk." And later still, "You've already done enough. Why want more?" And if you're not careful, that line sounds very reasonable. But it's dangerous because it hides the main trap: complacency. Confidence doesn't mean you can stop now. It means you can now go deeper. Because growth is the law of nature. Everything either grows or dies. When I look at people who've built great careers, I don't see the absence of fear. I see systematic work with it. They've simply made an agreement. Fear has the right to speak, but not the right to decide. They listen, analyze, thank it, and still take the step. Because they understand, a decision without action becomes self-deception. And that's why most people get stuck. They develop knowledge but not action. They read, learn, take notes, but don't move. They build confidence in theory, but confidence is always practice. Sometimes I think the biggest enemy of self-belief isn't fear, but delay. When you think too long, the energy of intention dissolves. You recall logic, seek guarantees, and the decision turns into overthinking. But if you shorten the distance between thought and action, doubt doesn't have time to appear. That's where the so-called inner calm everyone talks about is born. It's not the absence of fear, it's the speed of action. When I was young, I thought confidence meant being loud, demonstrative, persuasive. But over the years, I've learned true confidence is quiet. It doesn't need a stage, it doesn't seek applause. It simply acts. It's the person who shows up on time, who does what they promised, who doesn't argue with the result. They create it. And that kind of confidence doesn't shout, "I can." It simply whispers, "I'm already doing it." And here I want to pause for a moment, because sometimes truth needs silence to settle. So after this video, I'll leave a few minutes of calm music. Don't rush to turn it off. Just sit with this thought. Do you act faster than your fear can convince you to stop? Because that question is the real test of confidence. There comes a moment when fear stops being a feeling and becomes an excuse. We don't even notice when it starts speaking in our own voice. I just want to wait until things become clearer. I'm not sure it's the right time. I don't want to make a mistake. But behind those words hides another sentence. I'm not ready to trust myself. And that's the sentence that keeps most people in the shadows. They're not afraid of the light. They're afraid of their own reflection in it. Because then, they'd have to face the truth. All their limitations aren't walls. They're habits of thought. Let me tell you something I once heard from my mentor that changed the course of my life. He said, "Jim, every day you are training one of two people within you, the one you can trust or the one you can't." And this isn't a moral statement. It's about power. Because self-trust is the energy that makes you unshakable. Not money, not status, not approval. When you believe your own word, you can lose everything and still start over. But when you don't, even with a full bank account, you'll feel bankrupt. I want you to look at your fear today without disguise. Not as a monster, but as a mirror. Every fear tells you where you need to grow. Afraid to speak up? There's an unused voice inside you. Afraid to start? There's untapped strength within you. Afraid to lose? You haven't yet understood that what matters isn't what you have, but who you become. Fear is a signal. The door is here, and only you decide whether to walk through it. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the deep silence within when fear speaks, and you no longer listen. It's when your hands shake, but you take the step anyway. It's when your mind says, wait, and your heart replies, now. And if you want to know how close you are to that kind of confidence, don't look at your plans, look at your actions, because action is the only language the universe understands. I've seen people who prepared for years, studied, gathered information, and never began. And I've seen others who didn't know everything, but knew one thing. They couldn't wait any longer, and they were the ones who changed their lives. Because every moment of waiting is a tax on confidence. The longer you wait, the less you believe in yourself. I know it sometimes feels like fear runs too deep. But the truth is, it's never deeper than your decision. It's just louder. And when you finally say to yourself, enough, when you stop hiding behind rational explanations and fear begins to retreat because it feeds only on your silence. So here's my challenge to you, not philosophical, but practical. Today, find one thing you've been putting off because of fear and do it. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Today. Right after this video. Not to change everything, but to prove to yourself that you can trust your own word. Because after that step, something amazing happens. You gain a small piece of evidence, and one piece of evidence is already a crack in the wall of doubt. And through that crack, light starts to break through. And light grows faster than fear. Let me tell you what Earl Shoaff said to me that night when my life changed. You don't have to become fearless. You just have to become honest with yourself. So let me ask you directly, and don't answer me. Answer yourself quietly, honestly, without drama. If you completely trusted yourself, what would you do today? There are moments in life when everything around you goes silent. There are no spectators, no applause, no certainty, no guarantees. There is only you and a choice to step forward or to step back. And it is right there, in that silence, that your true strength is born. Not when you're being praised, not when everything is going smoothly, but when you decide for yourself, I will no longer let fear control my future. I realized this many years ago. The world doesn't give you confidence, it tests it. Every new day is an exam. Every challenge is a mirror. And if you don't use the challenge as training, it becomes a sentence. But when you look at the challenge and say, all right, I'm ready, test me, the universe steps back and says, finally. Because confidence isn't given, it's earned. You can't build the life of your dreams on a foundation of fear, but you can build it on a foundation of decisions. Every I will is a brick. Every I'm ready is a wall. Every I won't give up is the roof that shelters you in the storm. And storms will come. And when they do, you won't run, you'll stand. Because confidence isn't a shout of, I'm not afraid. It's a quiet breath that says, I'm staying. And yes, there are nights when it feels like all your confidence has dissolved into the dark. But it's in those nights that new standards are born. You won't always feel strong. But you can always act like someone who is. Because action shapes feeling, not the other way around. And when you act despite fear, you send a signal to your body, your mind, your entire world. I'm where I'm meant to be. This is how the system of unshakable confidence works. Don't wait for inspiration. Create evidence. Every action is evidence. Every day of discipline is evidence. Every victory over that lazy voice in your head is evidence. And one day when someone asks, how do you stay so confident? You'll just smile. Because it's not luck, not talent, not a gift. It's character. And character isn't something you're born with. It's forged by decisions. Today is the day of decision. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It won't come. There is only now. Now is the moment when you either choose to believe your fear or choose to believe yourself. And I'll tell you this, life always chooses the one who chose themselves first. So lift your head, take a deep breath, and tell yourself, not loudly, but with complete conviction, I can. I'm ready. I begin and begin. Because today's action will become tomorrow's confidence. And tomorrow, proof that you're capable of more than you thought yesterday. And when this day ends, I'll leave a little silence. Don't rush ahead. Sit quietly. Let these words sink deeper, because sometimes strength isn't in the noise of victory, but in the calm that follows it. And now, the final question, and I want it to stay with you for a long time. When the next moment of fear comes, will you recognize in yourself the person who has already decided not to run?